Hello, I'm Theolyn. I'm back again with another episode of Bridge of Stars, which I created to help us all through this lockdown period. I just want to say, because I'm also running Path Working with Archangels in parallel, and also because the lockdowns are generally slightly easing, I'm just going to be making Bridge of Stars every other day for the next couple of weeks, and we'll see where we go from there. Okay, so if you've been following, you will know that every day I'm drawing a card from the angel script. The angel script messages, which came through to me in the early 90s, are all published in this book. And each day we have a look at a character and see what comes up. Now, I'm supposed to be really careful with this so it doesn't make too much noise on the microphone. Here we come. Now, this is one that we've seen before. This is the temple. And I've often felt that it looks like a sliding door, or possibly the doors to the temple. If ever you get the chance to go to the British Museum, and if not, you can definitely see pictures online, you can see very ancient doors for the temples that were created in Babylon. Because of all the work I've done with the archangels, I've become very interested in the history of the Babylonians and the Assyrians. And so their temple doors, or at least a replica of their temple doors, can be seen in the British Museum, and possibly as they're replicas you may see them in other museums around the world. But they're absolutely vast. They're so huge, and they're beautifully embellished and decorated. And the entrance to one of these old temples was, designed to make you feel as though you were stepping into something so immense and so awesome that before you'd even stepped inside to participate in the rituals or the prayers or listen to the priests dedicating the ceremonies to the divine, you would already be in a state of, awe is the best word, really. And awe is another word in Hebrew. It's a variation on the word that they also use for fear. So there's the fear of the Lord is a biblical translation, but it doesn't actually mean fear, it means awe, and that's different. Awe is actually like, if you say somebody's awesome, you say, oh, aren't they wonderful? Isn't this amazing? It's almost like you're kind of in love with them and you want to bind yourself to them. Oh, it's so awesome. And that's the kind of feeling you get when you look at temple doors of that colossal size. So I don't know what you think or what you imagine when you think of the word temple or think of temple doors. In many ways, it doesn't matter the size. It could be a tiny little chapel, like the chapels that we get here in Wales. And some of them are really so small that, they only take a few people, those chapels. And they're tucked away in hidden places, in, near perhaps a sacred spring. And when you go in them, it's awesome. And it's not to do with the size, it's to do with the energy. Now, because I drew the temple, Cheth, and I drew it again, I thought I'd treat you to another character, also called Cheth, right? And this, let me take this one down. Is also Cheth. but it's got a different name. It's called Heavenly Protection. So if you've followed me at all, you may know that I teach something called the Shefa method. And I've been teaching Shefa topics for many years, and I've also taught healing modality that uses the Shefa characters. Now, just a quick bit of explanation, and that is that there are two alphabets we're talking about here. One was called the writing of the Malakhim, the writing of the angels, and that was the first one that I worked with in the early 90s, and I got all this channeled information. I got a message for every character. And then about 10 years later, nearly 10 years later, I think, yeah, the early 2000s, I started working with another alphabet of similar provenance. This one was called the Celestial Writing. And my experience of the Celestial Writing is that it functions on a higher vibration. And in this tradition, we have the idea that there are 4 different worlds, and there's the world that we can associate with pure divine energy, which is perhaps just quickly you could say is like the element of fire, and that would be where the seraphim would be. So the seraphim would be the fiery celestial beings. We might not even call seraphim angels because they don't necessarily bring messages in words, but the archangels can, and the archangels are connected with the second world, which we can relate to the element of air. That's a very quick rundown. If you want to know more about the 4 worlds, visit my YouTube series called How to Bring Real Magic into Your World. But let me come back to why I've shown you Cheth in the Shefa characters. You can see here Cheth is heavenly protection. So that relates directly to the temple. When you create a temple, not necessarily a physical temple, but a temple in your heart, you step into an arena which is protected by heavenly energy, very high vibrational energy. And so Cheth in the celestial characters and Cheth in the writing of the Malakhim, the angel script, and the Shefa characters have these connections. And people who work with me using the Shefa method and sometimes go on to learn healing as well, they begin to understand how these vibrational energies work together. So this is Cheth, heavenly protection. And you can do a very simple exercise with this. You can visualize, just standing up straight and visualizing the 2 pillars, perhaps the 2 pillars of the temple, and the lintel across the top. It can be a gateway, it can be a protective awning, like almost like a canopy that you might get. Again, a Jewish canopy would be a chuppah. When people get married, they put the chuppah over the couple. So that's a very neat little exercise that you could do for yourself, just based on this one Shefa character, and relate it back always to the notion of the temple as well. So Cheth, the temple, and Cheth, heavenly protection. One's a message from the angels, one is an inspiration from the seraphim. Okay, so that's a little treat for today, an extra character. Now, what have I got for you in the Bridge of Stars? Very suitable, I think. It's called Promise of Morning. Well, it's morning here while I'm recording this. You may not see it in the morning, but think about this little prayer. It's words written on the wall of the Missionaries of Charity in the children's home in Calcutta in India. Take time. Take time to think. It is the source of power. Take time to play. It is the secret of perpetual youth. Take time to laugh. It is the music of the soul. Take time to pray. It is the greatest power on earth. That's beautiful. I'm going to say it again. Take time to think. It is the source of power. Take time to play. It is the secret of perpetual youth. Take time to laugh. It is the music of the soul. Take time to pray. It is the greatest power on earth. Stay joyful.